Welcome to Breaking Down the Buzz, the podcast where we explore the thrilling world of tech industry leaders. From AI to the latest trends, we cut through the noise and decode the tech buzz and share our collected insights and insider knowledge. Welcome back to Breaking Down the Buzz, where we dive deep into the tech world's most fascinating personalities. Today, we're thrilled to have a very special guest. He's a wizard in the digital realm and a certified guru in information security. Meet Clay Westbay, the Vice President of Support and Delivery at Synergy Technical. But hold on, there's more to Clay than meets the eye. When he's not safeguarding digital landscapes, you can find him pushing the limits as an Ironman triathlete. That's right, endurance, resilience, and a can-do attitude, both in tech and on the track. And on a personal note, he's not just a tech superstar, he's also a great friend and an inspiring figure to many. So without further ado, let's welcome Clay Westbay to Breaking Down the Buzz. Clay, thank you for joining us on Breaking Down the Buzz, and welcome to Synergy Technical. I don't think you've ever been here before.
No, it's good to be here. This is a great place.
You like it?
I'd love to work here.
Yeah. You know, that's good. That's actually a good thing. So I thought it would be fun for us to talk about sort of what we see as important for 2024, since we're recording this on the 21st of December, and it'll launch in early January. I know, it's going to be 2024.
Yeah.
How on earth? When did you join us at Synergy?
2013, I believe, at the end of 2013.
Wow, you were just a little kid back then.
It's been a while, so.
Been a while.
Decade.
Been a decade. You like to say that, a decade.
Yeah, it's a decade.
A decade.
Feels good.
A decade working with me. Who could ask for more? All right, so let's talk about the elephant in the room, first of all, and that would be generative AI. Everybody's talking about generative AI and kind of what it's doing. What do you think for 2024?
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited because I feel like, you know, we've been in that buzz and that hype period, which is great. We're getting to hear about all the possibilities and the cool things that could come. But I feel like 2024 is really going to be the year where we get to see a lot of that come to fruition within our organization and with our customers. And so the actual building, I guess, starts to happen.
Right.
And I think that's going to be great for a lot of things that I know we're going to talk about today, but you know, in terms of what our customers are thinking about, it's how do I prepare for that? So I know we're going to touch on that today, but I know that those are many of the questions that you and I are getting on a daily basis.
Yeah. I mean, what I would say is that, first of all, anybody, if you think generative AI is not happening in your organization, you're just flat out wrong. I can promise you that someone is using ChatGPT with your data. I mean, for sure.
Sure.
I think that there are some things that are important that we need to be thinking about. Security, for sure. But even skilling people up on generative AI. So we have folks in our organization, not necessarily on the technical side, but more on the operations side, who are playing around with it and aren't necessarily getting what they want out of it. And I do think that there's some skilling that needs to happen across all organizations around when you're using generative AI. How do you prompt? It's sort of like you wouldn't walk into a deli and say, make me a sandwich.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
You know,
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you know, the search is absolutely going to get better with this generative AI. So, you know, being able to comb all of that data within your organization and get a clean output, you know, is going to be, you know, right at the forefront of every user. So I think that's the big reason why you and I are getting a lot of the conversations around how do I make sure that only people have access to what they should have access to.
Right.
And, you know, we've got organizations out there with orphan data that has IP in it, that has sensitive information that has just been sitting there for a while, and people have had access to it, and they really shouldn't, and they didn't know they had it, but now we're generating content in natural language with all of this. So it's going to be really important that access reviews are in place and all that's actually taking place this time.
Yeah, even from a synergy perspective, so we're what would be called a born in the cloud organization, where we have never had on-premise workloads. We started as a cloud partner day one, and we were in Office 365 from like literally the very first day when I got the business license for the company. And that's great, but it has some challenges. So as we were doing our review, preparing for Copilot specifically, one of the things that we were looking at was what data has been shared and with whom. And one of the things that people don't think about is, particularly like with OneDrive, if you have shared a file in OneDrive and you have shared it via a link, then basically what that means is that anyone within your organization that has access to that link now has access to that data. So it is possible that I could have maybe shared a comp plan with you for someone in your organization. And while that was shared between the two of us, it's a link that is available to anybody within Synergy Technical. And so one of the things that people really need to think about are, how do I go through my data and determine where data has been shared, that while it may seem like it has been privately shared, it hasn't necessarily been privately shared, and how do I fix that? And I think that organizations need to get ahead of that prior to rolling out these tools, because boy, you don't want to have a whoopsie.
Yeah. And, I think what we saw a lot of during the pandemic from a lot of organizations that were racing to get into the cloud because their workforce was spread all over the place, and they needed immediate solution. A lot of those sharing capabilities and permissions and access review type conversations and got overlooked.
For speed.
Yeah, exactly. Got to get there. We got to get there now. And now, a lot of people are coming back and saying, hey, can you help us look at what we have in place, because we know we probably have some holes and we need to plug those up.
Right. The other interesting thing about generative AI for me, I was just watching something, and it was related more to the stock price for Google. And it was something around, what technologies do you want to invest in? And this analyst was saying, I expect that Google, I'm not saying this is going to happen, let me be clear, but this analyst was saying, I expect that Google's stock price is going to start to fall a bit, because with the adoption of generative AI tools like ChatGPT or Bing Chat or whatever, people are no longer using Google for search, because when you use a search engine, it will give you kind of all of the places that you can go look and research that content. Whereas when you use a tool like a Bing Chat or a Copilot or a ChatGPT, not only will it give you those resources, but it will summarize them for you, and it'll basically do the research for you.
Yeah.
And so what's happening, and I know this has happened with me, is there's a shift to using the generative AI tools to search for answers rather than the Bing search or the Google search or the whatever.
Well, I'm glad it's not just me.
No, I do it every day. I mean, literally every single day I research something. So yeah, I think other things that we need to really be thinking about are the regulatory side of that. So, if you have data that has compliance requirements, you need to be thinking about that.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think this is where Microsoft really shines, and, all of the work that they've put into the Microsoft Purview compliance suite is really going to pay off. And I think customers are really going to find that beneficial as it's a key component of preparing for generative AI in your organization. and I think that those security compliance demands are only going to strengthen in 2024 on customers. Right. So that, I just attended a cybersecurity panel recently with Adrian and a couple other folks from our team, and that was a big topic of what organizations were talking about. And one of the big components that organizations are talking about around security and compliance is really getting their whole organization involved and not just their security team. So, educating their workforce on security and compliance and what to be on the lookout for in those areas. So, and trying to get them engaged and excited about security, which isn't always the easiest.
Until you get breached.
Yeah, exactly.
Then you get excited real fast, I would say.
But I think the insider risk focus is going to pick up in 2024 for sure.
Yeah. I could see that.
So, yeah, it all brings a lot of challenges, but it also brings a lot of great things that I think we're going to see with, people being able to do things in natural language and build a natural language
it's
that
so much faster.
Otherwise took a lot of specialized skills and really skilled talent that there's a real shortage of out there today.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I there's a lot of things that are exciting, but I think generative AI is one of the most exciting, if not the most exciting thing that has happened in technology, possibly in my lifetime, honestly. I mean, there's been some really cool things, the internet, because I'm of the generation prior to the internet. But generative AI is just moving things so much faster than anything we've ever seen before. Flying cars, they're coming. I don't know. I'm waiting. I'm absolutely waiting.
I'm getting off the road.
Yeah, right? I mean, there's an argument around self-driving cars. This is just totally off topic. But there's an argument around self-driving cars. And actually, my husband, Jonathan, and I were having this conversation one day when we were sitting in traffic. And the discussion that we had, because, we're two IT geeks, was if everyone was in a self-driving car, would there be traffic anymore? Because in theory, the whole one person slows down and slows everybody else down thing wouldn't be happening. So would there be traffic anymore? Or would there be more traffic? Because the scenario where a self-driving car maybe drives up, you get out, and there's no parking spaces, and now it's driving around the block over and over again. What if you have everybody doing that? So, there's...
And you've got more people that maybe didn't want to get out because they didn't want to drive, but now it's driving for them, so I'm going to get out more.
Yes, exactly. That's also true. You're right. I didn't think of that. Not one of our predictions for 2024, but yet still somewhat interesting. All right, so other things to think about. One of the things that I believe we'll really start to see more of in 2024 are the prevalence of the low-code applications and tool sets like Power Automate. Really, as we get more AI tool sets, I think that the combination of low code applications and AI is going to give people the ability to automate things faster than we had seen previously.
Sure.
So that for me is super interesting, and I do think we're going to see a lot of that. I don't know if you're seeing any of that with your team now.
No, our business app team. I think they're excited about, being able to, like I said, put together things in natural language and speed up some of the processes and things that they have today, that take some digging into and some real development. But, I think, it's exciting to be kind of see some of the features coming down the road where, we can be coding something and then all of a sudden be prompted for, did you think about, adding this line,
Right.
or did you check this, or would you like to add this? Let me go ahead and add it for
Right.
you. I think they're definitely excited about that.
Yeah, and I think even, if you take the technical team out of it. So again, we have an amazing technical team that can solve almost any business process challenge that they run into. If I put my old CIO hat on and you put your old IT leader hat on, there were so many things that business users would come to IT with and say, can you help me automate this process? That while they were important, when you work in IT, you generally have a queue of project work that's, as tall as me deep. You just do. And so some of those things that while they would be value add, sort of never got surfaced up to priorities for the organization.
Sure.
And I do think that the low code applications and tool sets like Power Automate are going to give individuals that maybe aren't necessarily technical the ability to automate some things that wouldn't historically have been able to do so.
Sure.
Things like take this email and when I receive it, write this data here or update this spreadsheet or whatever. That's something that historically would have probably come to IT, but maybe doesn't have to anymore.
Yeah. I mean, building those flows out doesn't have to be so technical and complex anymore.
Yeah.
Your standard user can take on some of those things. So
yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's going to lend itself to a necessary skill set of probably business process mapping. You could really easily run into a scenario where you had all these crazy flows that weren't necessarily put together in a logical fashion. So I do think that skill, and it is a skill, of being able to map a business process is going to be really, really necessary. But I do think that there's an opportunity for a lot of really cool things to get done, and not even necessarily simplistic things, but just coding to happen faster.
Sure.
Basically. Yeah. So let's talk about the shortage in IT skills that we know exists. What do you think about IT staffing in 2024? And what's going to happen?
I think we're running into a convergence of all of these different things coming together at the same time, and so I think there's the laggards to cloud, right? The folks that still have some legacy apps or services that they know they need to move to cloud,
right.
Or the vendor is maybe forcing them to cloud now, right? Because it's time to go. They've got to sunset that product or whatever it is. And so you've got that happening. So while at the same time the organization is trying to digest everything we just talked about with security and compliance around generative AI and how they're going to handle that. And then at the same time, you've got this real shortage in the industry, and not just the IT industry, but in a lot of different industries of, really skilled senior resources in a lot of different areas. So, and then you've got AI saying, okay, you can do more with less now.
Right.
So it's an interesting bit that's coming together here in 2024. And so I do think that organizations will struggle a little bit with not having that senior talent, but they'll look to AI to maybe offset that. And I know, a trend that's been happening over time is taking really smart recent college graduates, training them up within because we do it.
We do it all the time.
And so that trend is just going to continue, and I think their organizations are just going to continue to pour into those really junior resources and try to build them up to kind of fill this gap.
Yeah. I think what we're seeing certainly is, it's a weird market because there are a lot of IT folks that have been laid off or let go for one reason or another, and I think we've seen that all across the industry. Um, but there's seems to be a shortage of the really super technical, deep into the weeds, niche type folks, which are often the folks that we're looking for because when someone engages us, they're looking for a really deep expert in a technology. And so I think those folks are really, really difficult to find. I think that, if you're looking for a mid-level manager, those people are around. But if you're looking for somebody who can really dig in, they're harder to find. Conversely, I think it was a tough market for kids graduating from school this year because while they might be really, really smart and really technically adept, they don't necessarily have experience. And so again, for an organization like ours, we can't hire somebody straight out of college and bill $225 an hour for them. Any CIO worth their salt, their grain is going to say, you're smoking something. No, you can't bill me that little kid for that kind of price. So I know that what we're seeing is that we're hiring kids out of school and investing in them for a good couple of years and having them sort of shadow projects and be junior to more senior folks to get them to where they need to be. But it's odd because, 4 or 5 years ago, I think we probably could have found kids coming out of school that had that deep experience because those internships were available. And I think internships maybe got hurt over the past couple of years too.
Sure.
But it's been a weird market for sure.
Yeah.
With staffing.
Yeah. And it just, again, I think, if I'm an organization that is, like I said, maybe a laggard and I'm being pushed into cloud. And so I've got, all of these different projects and initiatives happening, but I've got these really junior resources. It could be a real challenge.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, at the same time, trying to wrap their heads around generative AI and what that's bringing into the organization at the same time. So I think 2024 is going to be interesting. I also think one of the trends, we've helped a ton of organizations obviously move to cloud, but and then with the pandemic, a lot of organizations have kind of changed their how their staff works. A lot of some companies are 100% remote.
Right.
Some are 80 to 90% remote. But that corporate network hasn't really changed very much. So I think CIOs and leadership are going to be taking a fresh look and saying, we used to have our data center in this private data center or even at our corporate headquarters. Do we really, need this type of network architecture? Do we need these appliances, this equipment?
Right.
I think some of that's going to be good and taking a closer look at to see if there's some efficiencies to be had there.
Yeah. I think, and we have this as a topic, that the cloud adoption trends are certainly going to change a little bit. We're seeing a lot more now, and I think we'll continue to see multi-cloud environments. There are a lot of companies that aren't necessarily comfortable having all of their data at Microsoft or all of their data at AWS or in Google, and are looking to distribute that a little bit or a lot. The other thing is that a lot of organizations have applications now that are cloud native, and so they're trying to take those cloud native applications and integrate them with applications that aren't necessarily cloud native, and so we're certainly seeing a lot of that. There is a focus on sustainability, certainly. A lot of organizations are waking up to we maybe need to make some changes in how we do things, and our technology has to have a better sustainable impact. So we're certainly seeing that. I think the biggest thing though that we're going to see is multi-cloud environments.
It's funny because our conversations 10 years ago were, I think this cloud thing's going to take off. And
Yes.
Organizations were telling us, I'm not so sure it's going to take off, and I don't think we're ready to do that. And now it's multi-cloud.
Yeah.
So it's quite the change.
It's been quite the journey, hasn't it? Although I can say, and you know who they are, there are organizations that we were talking to 10 years ago about moving to the cloud because we started Synergy with the thought that the cloud is the future. And we were right. Thank goodness, because I quit my job as a CIO to do that. But there are organizations that just now are signing their first statement of work to move to the cloud that we were talking to 10 years ago. And I know you know
Sure.
who they are.
Yes. Yes, I do.
Yeah. It's been quite the journey. Anything else you want to talk about for 2024? What's on the triathlon schedule? This is an important question.
Definitely shorter races.
Yes, right?
Shorter.
No more Ironmans?
I don't know about more races, but definitely shorter in duration.
Yes.
And then my kids are getting into endurance sports now, so
that's fun.
I'm becoming a supporter.
Are you a supporter or are you a pacer? Because I'm a pacer.
My wife tends to be the pacer, and I tend to be more of the supporter.
The cheerleader.
Yeah, the cheerleader, and just the logistics manager. So
and
I have that project management background.
That's true. That's true. Project management and security. It all comes into play when you're out there. Well, awesome. I'm looking forward to 2024. I think we're going to have a great year.
I think it's going to be fantastic, and I'm looking forward to just seeing all of the great things, not only that our staff do, because they do great things every day, but
right.
that our customers do, and that we get to help them with. It's going to be fantastic.